Here we go.
If you are on Zoom, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. I love it. Love it. All right. Anybody set up a search for property yet? Start looking. Yeah. What you coming up with? Anything that you run out and buy? No? Nothing but 20% below, 20% down. There he is. Oh, you're the best. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I forgot about this, Michael. Yeah. Wow. That's kind of creepy. Could you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The
It
camera
looks like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Kind of. Okay, so we are on page 211. Which properties are the real opportunities? This, I think, could be attested to anything. He says the number one cause of delusionment and lost momentum is chasing too many leads that look like opportunities but aren't. Anybody ever do that in the real estate business too? Right? So it's about qualifying our leads, just like we would with our business. Okay. So he talks about qualifying questions. And again, write down the criteria that are most important to you and make sure that the property meets those. Oh, I don't know if I can stand it. 3 days. Mike, 3 days since Friday. I have seen Jim. Yeah. Friday, Saturday, today.
Crazy.
Wow. Okay, so do you have your criteria? What's it look like? What's your criteria look like? What's some of the things you guys are looking for?
3 bed.
Something that needs work? 3 bed, 2 bath, single family, under 300. Rent rolls. Okay.
Western suburbs.
Okay. So I think it's 175. If I am not mistaken. Yes, it is. I love this. It's the difference between saying you're looking for an investment property and saying you're looking for a well-kept 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-story brick house with a 2-car garage that was built in the last 10 years and that can be bought below market value. Is your criteria that strict?
No.
So do you feel it needs to be for you?
I feel if it's detrimental, it feels detrimental.
Okay.
It'd be finding a needle in a haystack and then expecting the person that owns the needle to give you a great deal on it on top of that.
Okay. So Gary talks about our criteria being like this so that we can do that all properties bulletin. Right? Those are those emails or those phone calls that goes out. What's your favorite thing there, Jennifer? That 7 steps? What page was that on? Page 205. Hey, this is Gary. I may not have mentioned this before, but I'm now investing in real estate. Do you know anybody who needs to sell, or have you seen any properties like a well-kept 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-story brick house with a 2-car garage that was built in the last 10 years? I'd really appreciate it if you'd call me if you run across anything that matches that description. What's the best way for me to reach you in the future? Can you think of anyone else I should contact? Thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me. Thanks again for taking time out of your schedule to speak with me the other day. I really appreciate your help. So I guess it could go either way, right? But we have to know what we're looking for so we know whether or not it's an opportunity.
You start with a wider lens.
Well, Gary tells us to go small to go to big. So if I know that those are my criteria, my must-haves, then I know that that's what I'm looking for. Then I get to decide what adjustments I might make. So let's say it was built 11 years ago, right? So you could say, hey, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath that was built 10 to 15 years ago. But he's telling us that the criteria is so terribly important. He says it's a safety valve and it protects both our time and money. And it requires focus over time. He says if you're looking at a single family home in a certain part of town, you can get a rough idea of what they sell for and rent for by looking at the current area listings. He says we'll start to understand which aspects of our criteria count the most towards our value and rental rates. Right? Does that make sense? So we need to understand why a certain property sells for the market average while another sells for $15,000 more, or why a certain property rents for the average rent while one down the street rents for $150 more. So it's about being able to understand what it is that we're looking for. I mean, Seraphin, it was the perfect example. Seraphin and I had this great conversation. Was it last week? We were just talking about it. His buyers went in and put an offer. This house is listed at $525. And so I went in and I did a quick search and I said, I kind of think that maybe, the seller's kind of close. Well, the more we talked about it and the deeper I got, Seraphin was spot on. But I was taking in vague around what was around me, right? And until I got really specific. And he was so gracious that he gave me the time to kind of go through that process and to tend to realize. Right? I love that conversation. I replayed it in my mind a few times because I think I jumped to conclusions because I think I know a particular market, but I hadn't seen the house. And how many times have we looked at pictures only to be terribly disappointed when we got there?
Or the opposite, they didn't, give it enough, visibility to show all the features.
Yeah.
Started lowering my expectations.
Did you?
Well, I'm seeing the pictures online and then you're like, all right, it looks great, but it's probably just average. Because the pictures, from what my experience, the pictures embellish.
Well, they don't show the
perspectives.
right. Like if there's a picture of the door or something, you're not looking at the floor, right? What do the baseboards look like? Or is the paint really, So it comes back to understanding what the market is and why something sells for something. So he says there's 5 laws of lead generation. 1, never compromise. You're only looking for properties that meet your criteria and motivated sellers who will meet your terms. He says, for an investor, the answer to the question, is this a great deal, is black and white. A yes or no answer. It either is a deal or it's not. Right? Those properties that you just put offers on, if any of those come back in your favor, would you take any of them?
Absolutely. They meet my price.
Right, but that's it. You have a criteria. If they came back and met your criteria of all those offers that you put in, would you take them?
I would take as many as I could possibly get.
Could I tell him how many offers you just put in?
Sure.
He just wrote 17 offers.
And how many were accepted? Is it because price was a little bit? Like 90% list or less than that?
Oh, way less than that.
Gary tells us 20% below market value, 20% down, 30-year mortgage.
Actually, a couple of them, I offered 5% below what they listed at.
Yeah.
They have a price, in my opinion. They have a price that, others, they need a ton of work, they've been on the market for a long time. But,
Yeah.
you know, I'm hoping that they're in the situation. And the other thing too, I didn't mention is I went on Remind.
Mhm.
And all the offers except for the ones that are, already a deal. All the offers that I put out are for properties that have a list pens or so, there's some sort of,
Distressed.
like I go on Remind and I see, are they in distress, right? Do they have a list pending?
But sometimes it takes longer to find out. What an offer is.
What is that, the list, has a listing, what is that?
Notice of foreclosure. You can search for those properties in Remind. And I can show you when we meet. But here's they all initially met his criteria, but nobody came down to his price. Right? So none of them turned out to be a deal. But you don't know what might happen.
It's a numbers game. Maybe you gotta put-
Yeah, and I'm in talks with like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard from half of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just did this the last 3-4 days.
I think it's great.
Yeah, the more offers you put out there, the higher your chances of get somebody.
Yeah,
Well, the
listed properties or
some of them, the ones that are good deals are listed properties. I would say out of the 17, probably 7 are, I had a conversation with the owner. They've not listed it yet. I went met them and went to go see it. I kind of took a while to come up with a number, and I'm done with the project. So now that I have the time, I'm like, well, let me revisit that. Now that I'm done with the project, man, this is probably I'm not recommending this method in terms of like, now that I'm almost done with the project, then I'm scurrying to find a new one, which is probably why I've done so many. But I should be doing this activity
all the time.
all the time, right?
It's like our own lead gen roller coaster, right? We prospect.
Yeah.
We get really, really busy doing deals. We stop prospecting, all our deals close, and then we climb the mountain again, as opposed to making prospecting a regular part of what it is that you're doing all the time. Right?
That's how I died too, so.
Or he says, number 2, be a shopper, not a buyer. We live for the hunt, the thrill of the chase. Gary says that being a shopper instead of a buyer yields us 2 advantages. One is we get to enjoy the part of investing that we do the most. And that's the quest for the perfect property, right? Right, Mike? How many properties have you looked at? Hundreds, I think was what you said last week. And investing is secular. There's times of plenty and there's times of scarcity. But because we're shoppers, right, we're always out there. He says the second advantage of this is posture. It protects them. We never feel the urge to compromise on our standards or our criteria because we're always looking. Page 214. I got that look. I'm gonna call your wife. She's a sweetheart. How long you guys been married?
17, 18.
Wow. So we're shoppers. We treat every deal with a certain level of skepticism, which is perfect for me because I'm skeptical of everything. It says law 3, timing matters. Be the first or last person to make an offer. Why do you think that's important? Same for going on a listing appointment, right?
Yeah.
You want to establish the standard or just blow everybody else out of the water. And I would almost always rather be first.
Yeah, 'cause sometimes you're not gonna have a second.
No.
person They go to.
No.
They say 80% or.
Yeah,
something.
85%. So he said this, when we are prospecting, then we're asking the question, have you ever considered selling that property, which is one of the things Seraphin did, right? Even if it's not for sale. My husband and I went to dinner at one of his really good friend's house. This is, of course, many years ago. And I walked into their house and I immediately said to Kay, Mike's wife, I said, if you guys ever sell, I'm interested. Didn't check with my husband, I just said, if you guys sell. So he got into the story about how that's how it was in this neighborhood. And that they had another friend that really wanted to live in the neighborhood. Nobody was selling. So he kind of would troll the neighborhood and he saw a lady outside and he just stopped and asked her, have you ever considered selling your house? Guess what? She sold it to him. Right? So are you taking advantage of those kinds of things if it's a house that's in your criteria and somebody's outside? Right? I know there's not a for sale sign, but have you ever considered selling that property? Investor would rather have the offer fall through than risk competitive offers that almost certainly will drive up the price. He said serious investors rarely bid before the auctioneer counts down with going once, going twice. I'll tell you this funny story, not related to real estate. I was at an event in Austin and they, do bids and stuff for KW Cares. And so I'm always one of those people that wants to drive the bid up so that KW Cares can get as much money as possible. So Jason Abrams had done this. He had come in and talked to us. Jason Abrams, the director of, I don't know, whatever, but he's a pretty, I guess he's coming Wednesday, right? And so he had this piece of paper. And so the facilitator said after lunch, he says, we're going to auction off Jason's scribbles to the highest bidder and all the money will go to KW Connect and I'll have Jason autograph it. Well, I got that bid up to $1,000. I was so proud of myself. And so Dick Dillingham, the facilitator, says, well, we're going to go ahead and call the bid because there were 4 of us standing. He says, because you'll never guess what? I have 4 copies. So guess what I had to do that day? Make $1,000 donation to KW Cares because somebody called my bluff. So I have a picture of me and Jason framed next to the picture of the scribbles. So I went up to him next time I saw him, I said, Jason, I was one of the people that paid $4 grand for your scribbles. You're going to stand right here and have your picture taken with me. So I have a tendency not to drive the bid up anymore. Unless it's something I really, really believe in. But yeah. Numbers game. I love this line. Great lead generation in any business is about overkill over time. The more properties you look at and the more sellers you interview, the greater the odds are that you'll find something great. They cast a wide net. 17 properties. Right? Here's some of the statistics for you at 216. For every 30 properties they found that met their basic criteria and were worth investigating, about 10 warranted serious investigation. Of those 10, only about 3 were worth making an offer on. And because their terms were as strict as their criteria, only one of those offers turned into a deal. The graphics on the page at 216. He says beginning investors probably have to look at 3 to 5 times more properties. He says about 90 to 150. Because, I mean, do we really know what we're looking for?
There's a learning curve.
Right. He says that helps us develop the knowledge we need to make good decisions. Law number 5, be organized and systematic. Ooh, there's that word again, systems. Systems. Systems protect your time and your money. Here's the thing, nobody else is going to be out there protecting your time and your money. People are going to be looking to steal your time and your money. This is the final law of lead generation, is about treating it like a business. We don't get to not do it, even if we don't feel like it. I use this as an example all the time, and if you've heard it before, you're going to hear it again. I have 2 dogs. One of them is 14 years old. For 14 years, almost every day, I have gotten up in the morning and walked them. And every day when I get home, the first thing I do is walk the dogs. Note to self, I don't ever want to. I was up at 6 o'clock this morning walking the dogs because I had to be here at 9. I didn't want to. I fell asleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. My only saving grace was that somewhere between Saturday and Sunday, I slept 14 hours. Did it? So here's the thing. I do it anyway. I have done it for so long that it is just a habit. If I don't do it, it feels strange. Right? So your Gary Keller says we need to lead generate so much every day that if we don't do it, it feels weird. Like I was in group coaching this morning, and we're going through the book Fanatical Prospecting, which is probably one of the best books on prospecting I've ever read. And we were going through the conversation, and of course, I said to myself this last night, don't forget your book. And I said to myself this morning, don't forget your book. What do you think happened? Right. Now, what if I had said, Cheryl, remember your book?
Right. It's all in the wording.
So I'm driving here and I went, crap, I forgot my book. Which was actually kind of nice because it caused my coaching clients to engage in the conversation a little bit more. No, I've totally forgot what I was going to say.
So you don't use that word, forget.
Or system, or
Something becomes a habit so much.
What's the matter? Right.
Yeah, but wasn't my point, but
feel wrong when you don't,
When something
Follow
becomes
your
a habit
system.
and you don't do it anymore, then it feels wrong and the last few
I don't know. I'm going to claim COVID brain, okay? Well, I did something that was out of the norm. Usually the night before I get all my stuff together, I pull it all together, and I had my book upstairs last night. And so it wasn't where it normally should have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not it, but anyway. Okay. The acquisition model of the real estate investor. Okay, so up till now, we've invested a lot of time. Let's say it's time to invest some money. And why would Tanya Mossenberger be calling me?
Maybe we're too loud.
Could be. This is our moment of truth. The place where your dreams of becoming a millionaire real estate investor become true or not. Right? We have spent a lot of time talking about mindset. So Gary asks on page 219, how do millionaires make money? He says it's simple. They make their money going in. They buy right. They virtually guarantee their success because they're following a model. If you purchase the property with enough profit built in, you will have insured at the time you buy that your investment will make you money. So is that why it's important to know what our criteria is? How much you want it to cash flow, right? Am I going to flip it? Am I going to hold it? What if I can't flip it and I have to hold it? Do I have a plan B? Right? I love this. He says, this is important because once you begin to make real estate acquisitions, your performance will be recorded permanently and forever. No replays or do-overs. He said, if we stick with the acquisition model, we won't need to. Earlier in the book, we used the phrase persistent, effort, patient, money. Well, your patience is going to pay off. The beautiful thing is that you've taken the time to have the mindset, to learn some of the basic principles, and you're not going off half-cocked. Because how easy would it be? We're all real estate agents, right? We know how to buy and sell properties. We know the market. How hard can it be?
You want to buy it based on the numbers, not on your emotions.
Right. There is no emotion involved in investing in real estate. That's why it's wonderful to work with investors. It's a brick and mortars transaction. They don't care. Mm-hmm.
And that's how we need to look at it.
Right. So Gary says we've been preparing your mind and informing your actions. You understand the path of money. So we've begun to budget money to invest. You've set up your personal balance sheet so you can track your progress. You know how real estate investing can increase your net worth through equity buildup and or cash flow. Developed your criteria or lead generating for it. So let's get into the acquisition model. Do you want cash or cash flow? Okay.
Well, it depends if you had a short term or a long term.
Okay.
You.
So let's just for fun, let's pick your first property in your brain. You want cash or cash flow and equity? What do you want? Are you going to hold it or are you going to flip? Or are you going to hold it and rent it? Or are you going to flip it? Okay.
has to be kind of perfect.
Mhm.
Cash flow, keep the property over time, still make money.
Yeah, raise the rent.
So if you flip it, you should put it in a 1031, so you're not paying taxes.
Well, put it, I would,
I know.
I would put every, I don't know how you do this, Seraphin, if you put every purchase into an LLC.
If you flip it,
Yeah, but you're holding.
yeah, I believe if you flip it, can't, it depends how long it takes you to flip it, but if you flip it, I think for 1031, you have to hold it for a certain amount of time.
Something, it's not like a.
Like 6 months or a year.
It's less than the
Don't
standard.
quote me on that, but I think so, I think so.
Primary residence.
The money for your next investment.
But anyway, 6 months goes by fast.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
So we either invest for cash or we invest for cash flow and equity. You just need to decide. So page 222, figure 52 is the acquisition model of the millionaire real estate investor. So if you want cash, there are 4 basic options for accumulating it: find and refer, control and assign, buy and sell, and buy, improve, and sell. If you're looking for cash and don't want to invest any money or even write a contract, you can accomplish that through find and refer. You find the properties, refer them to somebody else, collect a commission on those transactions. You can use that page 205, the 7-step conversation.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, but we're not going to call it that. I'm not looking at you for any particular reason.
It didn't work.
You're just out looking for properties for investors. So do you have a database of investors? One of the things that we did when I was working with investors was we went to either coast because their money will go farther in the Midwest.
The Midwest is more stable.
Exactly. So I have a coaching client whose dad lives in Massachusetts and he wants to get it started investing property. I said, why don't you have him invest here? She said, wow, I never even thought about that. So then you don't have to refer the business out, right? Their money will go farther. So you get involved with an investment groups. You can start doing that right away. I sold 2 $500,000 units to a woman from California. Never met her. Just talked to her on the phone.
How did you read my mind when you said that? That's what's.
There's also overseas buyers, right? We back when we were doing this, a lot of our foreign investors were from Ireland. You know, who's buying properties right now? Right? So don't limit yourself to just the people that live in this area.
How do you find those groups?
Go to Google. Type in California investment clubs. That's what I did. Yeah.
You can also promote yourself on social media.
Yeah. You could do a paid ad.
Specialized.
You could do a paid ad. It's like, call around. Who do you know that lives in California or New York? It's all about building relationships. Are you guys seeing that again? Control and assign. This means you gain an option on an assignable contract on an investment property and then find somebody else to buy it. First time, you're finding out the criteria for the investor and you're going and finding it. This time you're going to find the property. You might even purchase it and assign the contract to someone else.
That's wholesaling. Right?
We're not going to say that word.
Oh. Is that a bad word?
No. No, we're not supposed to.
There's ways
Oh.
around that.
Right,
So what is that? That means it's the same thing.
you find the
I
property,
mean, no, I know, but.
there, and you buy it,
Yeah,
and you have investors,
or you get it under contract.
then you get, why just sit fine? Get it under
There are
contract,
some
have
people,
investors, and you
Joel, I
sit
think that are doing this with like hundreds of properties.
Oh,
And I think that's what Jack is concerned with,
Right,
is that the legalities we can get into is, because you don't have to have a real estate license to wholesale.
right.
You had to have one.
You do after 2 or 3, then you need to have a license, but if
Right.
you do under that, you do not.
So
Right.
you could get it under contract
Right.
with an agent, an outside agent, and then you could sell that contract to somebody else. That's the wholesale. Right.
I just wanna know how not to.
Oh.
It's more the question.
I have like a rundown, because I have friends who do it in like Tennessee and stuff where it is illegal, but there's a way to like finesse it where you're kind of hands off, but it is your contract. I have someone who does that and he tears down houses and custom builds everything. But that's how he works.
Well, I'm going to assume that in here, Joel, Gary's going to keep us on the straight and narrow. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Oh, I would check, if you were at all concerned, I would check with Jack.
Just ask yourself, would Gary do this?
I mean, that's,
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Jack's the license plate. Yeah.
stay in this office.
The third option is to buy and sell, in which you acquire the property, make no improvements, and put it back on the market at a higher price.
Right.
That would
Open door.
leave you out, Mike. The fourth option is buy, improve, and sell. Takes more time and money than the other ones.
And you have to be really, really careful when you're, buying it, because you have to make sure that the money that you pay for it is less than the improvements that you're going to make on it, so that you can make the money back.
Right. Well, here's a really simple example. So my grandson just bought a 2002 Lexus LS 430. Has 146,000 miles on it. Little bit of rust, not much. Interior is immaculate. Got it for $1,000.
Wow.
We've
Yeah.
probably put $700 into it.
Exactly.
So I was talking to my son who used to wrench, and I said, was this car, and we bought it from someone I know really well.
Well, you got a good deal on it.
Right. And he says, as long as we don't put more into it than what Gavin paid for, then it was a good deal. But you're right. He's going to drive that car another 150,000 miles.
Mhm.
And the interior is immaculate. And the guy that we bought it from worked for Goodyear, so it's got good tires on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. $700.
You're right. I hadn't thought about that.
Buy, improve, and sell. If you don't know what you're doing as far as improving is concerned, you can wind up spending way too much money and not being able to get that.
Well, that's why you hire somebody like Mike.
You gotta know what the ARV is. The
Right.
after repair value.
Yep.
Right, exactly.
Know your neighborhood. If you're in Naperville, it's gonna look different than you're in
Right.
Joliet.
Yep.
And two, how much the parts then cost, what, you need to know that.
And there's different levels. You can buy it, you can
Exactly.
paint it, you can do a
Right.
total renovation or such like that.
And most things now, what sells a house?
kitchen, bathroom.
Yes, exactly. Those are not updated.
Eight colors for,
Yeah, neutral colors, paint is cheap. Most of the time when people go in and looking at places, the two things that they look at the most is the kitchen and the bathroom. Yeah.
Right.
exactly.
So how much sweat equity you want to put in and how much are you going to pay somebody else to do it? So I love this quote on page 223 by Mary McDonald, no relation, by the way. She said, when I flip, I want to put at least $15,000 in my pocket. For example, my first flip was a property I bought for $40,000 at a bank auction. I put 40 grand into it and sold it for 125,000. I learned a lot of my fixer-up skills by managing other people's properties. First a 6-unit and then a 16-unit building.
Mhm.
But there are experts out there. Mike. Right? And other people that you can contact that can do that for you. So how much money do you want to put in your pocket? Is going to depend a lot on whether or not you're doing sweat equity or you're hiring somebody else. So for me, money is time. I would rather spend money and have time than do that stuff myself.
Right.
Okay. Are you?
I mean, I'm hands-on, so I don't mind it, but at the end of certain projects, I should have fired out.
sometimes you end up putting twice or three times the amount of time
No, exactly.
into it than you ever anticipated.
That's actually my goal for this year, is to step away, fire it out.
Nice. Well, it's the thing. If I hire an electrician or I do it myself, it's like in being in real estate. You can do this by yourself. You hire a coach, it's going to happen a lot faster, right? If I go in and rework electrical in my house versus hiring an electrician who does it all the time, right? They're in and out,
They do a better job.
right?
It's like having a professional realtor, right?
Exactly. Like I could paint, but I don't want to. Because my time is more valuable to me than the money I would save painting myself. But that's just me. Okay. All right. Cash flow and equity. You have 3 options: lease option, buy and hold, buy and prove and hold. Sounds a little like the same, right? He says the cash flow and equity, an option that requires little or no effort or little or no money, is the lease option. He says you can do both. You can lease option in and you can lease option out. He said a lease option in is when you negotiate to lease a property from the seller, usually for 2 to 5 years, with the option to buy at the end of the period. So lease with an option to purchase. Purchase price is settled ahead of time. What percentage of the rent would go towards that purchase? Okay. So what he's talking about right here is part of your lease option contractor's agreement. If I've secured the right to lease this property to a lease to buy owner, or I could lease and buy it myself. And I lease it for more than what I leased it for.
You sublease.
Yeah, but for more.
Right.
Lease option out is when you rent a property you own to a tenant, possibly somebody who needs to clean up their credit, with an option to buy at the end of the lease period. You can gain increased cash flow during the lease period, and depending upon the pre-negotiated price, some equity. The second way to create cash flow and equity is to buy and hold. Is everybody familiar with buy and hold? The last and possibly best way to build cash flow and equity is to buy, improve, and hold, which is what you're doing, which what Seraphin just did. Did you do any improvements on your last one?
process.
Are you?
Just got done with that.
Yeah,
You know, I had to do it going in.
did you?
What do you do, retile and new vanity, or just paint the vanity and put a new countertop back on?
Tub, shower, toilet, painted,
Put the flooring and the
already
vanity.
stayed, yeah. So it didn't do the whole thing, I didn't do the work, that's.
Yeah.
Factored all that into the price. So yeah, it's, and tenant's happy. So, much better than it was.
Oh, then you get a higher rent down the road.
That's maintenance overall.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then you also have the depreciation and the capital expense that you deduct the taxes to.
All these big terms we're tossing around. So we're looking for one thing in the buy and sell strategy, and that's cash. Cash is king. The goal is to ensure a net profit payout within weeks or at least months.
In weeks, and net profit payout.
Mhm.
You're talking, which model? was it?
Closing,
Oh.
cash, buying and refer.
How long, when did you close on your last property?
Oh,
And it'll be ready to rent when?
February 1st.
So November, December, January. So 3 months.
When you bought it, you guess,
3 months.
And you did a pretty substantial.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Full rental.
Turned out great.
What area?
right off the 75th and Bailey, just on the other side of, I'm sorry, not 75th and Bailey, Washington and Bailey.
I just drove by there on my way here this morning.
is it a single family house?
It is
What street is it?
Bailey.
Oh, on Bailey, okay.
The outside's not done, so you drive by it.
So nobody drive by,
Close your eyes when you,
but imagine the inside being amazing.
the inside, so yeah, the outside, you can take care of that in time. So,
Yeah, it'll be taken care of by February 1st. My kids call it the haunted house, and we're supposed to close in September. And it just dragged on and dragged on. So we ended up closing on Halloween, so I was like, they were right the whole time.
That's
Ah,
hysterical. You should listen to your kids.
Yeah,
Okay, well, Gary gives us a worksheet on page 228. So again, it's about knowing the market. Without knowing the market, we cannot function as shoppers. Right? He says there's all kinds of acronyms in here. ARV, FARV, COP, COR, CC, and COS. ARV, anybody know what that stands for?
After
Repair value. FARV? Fast after repair value. Rick Villani, one of the investors, says his formula for fast after repair value is 2 weeks. What will the house sell for within the first 2 weeks on the market? The second safety factor is called your discount profit margin, and it's actually the margin for which you'll make your profit on the investment. This number is crucial, right? Is it part of our contract? I mean, our criteria, because what did that other person say? They want to do at least pocket 15,000. You know, they paid 40, invested 40, sold for 125. Did it work?
Yes.
They're saying that the experienced real estate investors feel that the discount profit margin needs to be as high as 30% of your property price. Those with the most experience in this method of real estate investing feel that the discount profit margin needs to be as high as 30% of the property price. As the price of the property increases, they believe that this margin usually becomes a flat dollar amount, such as 30 or 40,000, since the 30% figure may not hold up for all properties. So this includes hidden repairs, unexpected bad weather, contractor delays. He said it's Murphy's Law. So to set it at 30%. And we have to establish that margin going in.
Well, then you could also look at it as a cash return.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'd love for you to do this week is take that figure on page 228, figure 53, and just do an example of one. Go find a property in the MLS and work one out. And if you can, base it on your criteria. Okay, biggest takeaway from today.
It's a term wholesale.
That's not.
Numbers, you gotta keep it on.
Yeah.
You gotta work at it all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't stop looking for the next property just because you're working on one. Systems. Right? Yes, you can.
I was listening to Robert Kiyosaki give an interview, and he said that the person was basically complaining and saying, I can't find the realtor to work with, right? Because I told him what you wanted me to do, which is put a bunch of lowball offers everywhere, and nobody worked with me, right? Because they're like, what happens if all of them accept, right? Like then you're not going to be able to submit all this, and my reputation will be ruined, and blah blah. Like that's what the person was saying that he was being told. And Kiyosaki said right away, he was like, change your realtor. He's not the right one. Number two is you're worried about having a bunch of great deals and you can't even land one. That's what you're worried about. You're worried about having 15 lottery winning tickets
When you can't get one.
when you can't get one. That's what your main concern about is. Like, you'll find a way, right? If I don't have money for 17, right? But the way I'm thinking about it is, if I get 3, I can maybe squeeze 2. You're right, two deals at once. But I have friends, I have family,
Right.
I have this group, and if I came to you guys and said, hey, why don't we do this one, kind of not wholesale it to you, but it's a phenomenal deal, right?
So another way I heard that was find a deal first and then.
Worry about that later.
You know, cause.
You're in sales, we're in sales, right?
They accept your offer, you don't have to come up with the money the very first day, you got some time
Yeah.
to.
You still
give it
have
time
the
to live.
appraisal period or the
Yeah.
inspection period where you could be like,
That's
like back out if you can't find it. You have those 5
My
days.
takeaway is that's the least of your worries. You're worried about an embarrassment of riches.
But
And I
of
think
course,
that's the word he used, Kiyosaki, and I remember that and I was like, he's right.
He's right.
He's 100% right.
so you could use like a hard money, you know, pre-approval, something like that, and then go back and do finance under different terms. Just to show them you're approved.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean
There's
you
a
have to
lot
use
of
that.
ways to do it. All you have to do is be creative, be attentive, you know.
I would say, don't overthink it, right? Get a deal first,
And then, yeah,
because you have the attorney review period, you're gonna do inspections, because your offers are gonna be contingent on this stuff. Right, so that would
You
be,
may even go in with no money of your own, somebody else.
and if, yeah, and the other thing too is, from what I remember him saying, and I also agree with this highly, is if you put out 5 deals and you get 3 of them accepted, then you don't know how to offer, you don't know how to get great deals,
Right,
right? Like your offers are way too high,
right.
right? So that's the other thing too, that's kind of a gauge as to how you're valuing these properties, what metrics are you using to evaluate your
what's
properties?
making money going in, and if you're,
Yeah,
Mhm.
if you're like 1 out of 1, you might be paying. market price,
I guess my
but
answer
not a
should have
lot
been
of
like,
upside.
if that's your problem, I'll help you, bro.
Yeah.
All right. That's your problem, I'll help you.
I want friends with those problems.
Yeah.
We all do, I think.
Well, You make your money in with the challenges, right? If
Yeah.
it was easy, everybody would do it.
Well, here's the thing. There's money out there.
Yeah,
And Seraphim's right. If he walked in here and said he had a great deal,
We would all sit there and figure
I'm
out a
in.
way to
So
put
show
money
us
in
your
or
numbers.
something, yeah.
Prove it is what I would expect to hear from this group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have 5 great deals and I can only afford 3 of them. Prove it.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's go to the property.
Yep.
If somebody said that to me right now, I'd say, let's go. You have time right now.
But
I'm
not
gonna
the
move
one-
some stuff for a
Not the haunted house one.
You want that?
Yeah, it is.
That was me.
Doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
I gotta show up every week, so I'm gonna expect you to come in with, saying, I got some deals, I need some help, guys.
No, not me. That guy over there. What's your name? What's your address? What's your last name? Phone number?
yeah.
He's the one that asked the question.
Charles will hook you up.
Charles.
Looking for my first. You have extra.
No, I'm like I said, I'm dying for these deals. I wish this was 2013.
Because inventory's low, right?
But things slowed down for like 3 or 4 years before that, you know, and we're heading into that kind of a period right now. I don't know how much it's gonna slow down.
Prices, price change, so.
Yeah.
There's more price changes than before.
Yeah. Yeah. And things are ticking up. Well, that's why we're shoppers, right? So what shopping are you going to do this week? Yeah. So let's go through this thing on page, whatever it was. 228. Let's start shopping. Let's start talking deals in here.
What Joel said was analyze deals, because I listened to that bigger pockets. for
Yeah.
Years, I kind of got burnt out of it. They said they analyze so many deals and then they decide from there which ones to put offers. And then then it gets to that stage where you're putting in 20 offers and getting maybe 1 or 2 or whatever. But it's like a numbers game going in, you gotta analyze, and then you gotta see which ones you're putting it in and then stuff like that.
Right. Which is why we have to know what our criteria is going in.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Zoomies, anybody got feedback up there?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Bobby. Anybody else?
No, thank you so much.
Okay, we're out.